Well, oh, hi there. I didn't see you there. The shot didn't work the first time I did it. I don't know why I'm continuing to do it, but you know what? Let's go for it. Yeah, so Papers, Please was the second episode I ever did for JamesAtGames. It wasn't the second episode I ever shot. I'm trying to remember which one that was. But I had originally planned to do Papers, Please. I believe it was like episode 4 or 5. But then I had some things come up in my production schedule, and I couldn't quite get the game. I think it was that I couldn't get the game that I wanted to record to work, so I was like, well, shit. I already played Papers, Please. Let's just move it up in the schedule and give me more time for something else. So, yeah. This will be the second remaster that I've done. I'm totally not buying time. Papers, Please is one of those really rare games that doesn't really tell a whole lot in its story. It just kind of tells it through the gameplay, and I really like the emergent gameplay and the emergent storytelling that entails. So, with all that said, guys, I welcome you to a brand new remastered episode of Papers, Please. I don't think I ended up cutting a whole lot. I think I just kind of like basically just tweaked some things and tweaked some cuts and fixed the audio and all that fun stuff. But yeah, it should be mostly the same, just better. So, enjoy. Alright, I'm going to level with you guys here for a second. I really didn't want to actually do this video this early on in my channel's life cycle. Just because it's an indie game, and indies are kind of taboo now. Like, oh, playing an indie game, what are you, some kind of hipster? Whatever. I really actually didn't want to approach this game because it deals with some very dark and very serious subject matter. And while it is a very wonderful game, and it's very well done, it can get a little heavy. So, you know, warnings ahead. We are dealing with some very serious subject matter with some very serious thought pulled out from it. So if you're offended by that kind of stuff, then I recommend you not watch this video. Now, for the rest of us who are actually still here because we don't give a welcome to Papers, Please. Papers, Please is a game that starts off with you winning your nation's great work lottery. Now, whether that's a good thing or not, that's up for interpretation. With this lottery, you have officially won the job of being a border control member at the new checkpoint that has opened in the city of Dresden. It is your responsibility to look over everyone's paperwork, compare it to the laws that actually change on a day-to-day basis, allowing and disallowing immigration into your great country, and it is up to you to make sure that the great country of Arstotzka remains sovereign. It isn't too much longer after you hit the start button that you see how dark and gritty this game can get, with a totalitarian government breathing down your neck at every move, and also with all of the relations with the countries around you dissolving every day. You see some pretty crazy things out there. Not all of them are good. Having to deal with terrorists attempting to attack the border solely because of the checkpoint that's popped up is just a slight scratch on the surface of what you'll actually deal with on your daily grind. The game starts off awesome enough, you get a free job and you didn't even have to apply for it. Alright. And on top of that, the government puts you in an apartment that you still have to pay for, but hey, you know, don't have to apartment hunt, so that's nice. No, but seriously, this game from the very beginning moments is incredibly bleak, especially when you consider the forced labor involved. Once you arrive at your booth, the fun of comparing little slips of paper to other little slips of paper begins. The gameplay itself is pretty simple. It's basically just making sure that what people hand you is what they're supposed to hand you, proper dates and symbols are on them, etc. and etc. Every person you correctly admit gets you 5 credits at the end of the day, which you use to purchase food, heat, and rent for your family. And if you were unable to the night before, medicine so that family members don't die.
Things get more interesting at the beginning of each day, as there's a newspaper that comes out talking about the political environment and what's changed in today's rules. A great example of the changes early on, people have to have an entry ticket. So in addition to checking the passports to make sure that information is correct, you also have to check the entry ticket and first, make sure that person even needs to have an entry ticket, and then make sure the date lines up with today's date in order to grant access. It can get pretty hectic later on when checking seals to make sure the colors aren't inverted while making sure their story lines up with their work visa, and then you discover that they're from Kolechia, so you have to submit them to a random body search for weapons after Kolechian terrorists attack the wall. It gets really tense, but in a good way. The tension that you have to deal with is multi-faced in this game, though. Instead of earning credits, if you actually mess up, you get 2 warnings. First 2 warnings, you don't get paid for, but you're not punished for either. Starting with your 3rd warning and beyond, you are instead docked 5 credits every time you mess up. This, in addition to the really deep moral quandaries in the game, can bring up some really interesting emergent gameplay, which it's actually pretty refreshing seeing something in a game like this. A great example of the struggle that you'll deal with is there's one example where a young woman is coming up to you and is talking about how great the nation of Arstotzka is and how they're going to help her and they're going to help her mother. She's been sick for a long time and she's going to go there and get the medical help that she needs. And she gets approved, no problem. She's so excited. Then the mother comes up and the mother is, you can tell that she's ill. She's very frail and it's very obvious what's going on here. And she can't shut up about how amazing Arstotzka is, and she's so happy that she's finally able to find a state that will help pay her medical bills. And then you look at her passport, realize the date on it's wrong. You can't let her in. So you have a quandary. You have 2 choices to make. You can either take the hit yourself and let her go on, let her live, if you have enough hits left. Your second option is to just flat out reject her. You already have way too many mistakes as it is. Your son's sick at home. Your family's cold. You need that money. You can't afford to let her in. So you reject her. But you have to deal with the knowledge that you just killed that woman. She's going to go back to her country. She has no one to go with now. Her daughter's on the other side. The state's not going to pay her medical bills. And you saw it in her face. She's ill. She's very sick. So you have to deal with those moral conditioning questions. Not even a day-by-day basis in the game, but literally a person-by-person basis. It makes you question yourself, but it also makes you realize how deep the human psyche really goes and how different people judge different things. Because some people are going to be like, oh, it's a fucking game, whatever, who gives a shit, reject. And other people are going to be like, oh, well, you know what, you're wrong, reject. But there are other people who are, going to be like, well, dude, I have to let her through. And that's one of the things that really makes this game interesting. Because not only do you have to be fast and speedy and accurate, but you also get situations like that just completely blindside you and can change the flow of your game entirely. You can go from being on top to, oh, well, I'll just take this one mistake. And then before you know it, 2 days later, you've completely eaten up your savings. Your child dies because he's been sick and you can't afford medicine. Your family gets evicted because you went into debt. And then you get thrown in prison. And the die is cast. Someone else fills your job. It's a pretty dark game. It's these kind of questions, it's this kind of emergent gameplay that keeps you coming back for more, no matter how sick and twisted it really is. It's addictive. For what this game is, it's actually surprisingly beautiful. It does look a little bit like a later DOS game, but it's really not the graphical prowess, and it's rather the attention to detail that will put you into the world like none other. Small details like age lines on faces, the clothes they're wearing, even the color of their sprite, all makes everyone look unique. And when put together with a massive database of variables with height, weight, age, country of origin, passport issuing city, and so on and so forth, it's really amazing how detailed this game is. Sound design is spot on, from everything from the guard saying papers in the weak, broken voice he does, to the sound the speaker makes whenever you call the next citizen in. Fits the charm of the game perfectly. Performance is also something that's quite admirable, seeing the game is so relatively basic when it comes to rendering materials. every device that I've tried it on, it has run at a solid 60 FPS. And to be honest with you, I've never even really had things like Frapped open to monitor my frame rate. It's just that smooth and responsive. One thing that really irks me is the complete lack of render options. Sure, you can pick resolution, but what if you're trying to get your grandmother into the game and her Dell from 2006 just can't keep up? You're pretty much boned. I don't know how many times I can say it, but this game just oozes care and atmosphere from every pore. The story is also a rather interesting one, as it's one you, the player, develop with your own choices throughout the story. And I don't mean that in a kind of gamey, like, oh, you get to pick your own ending kind of way. It actually legitimately has some value. One of the earliest and best examples of how this game holds back nothing from you, you're greeted with a hooker that gives you her card and says to pay her a visit sometime. Pretty creepy. But I'll have to pass. The next day, you meet another one who also tries to expand her clientele. It really comes to a head on day 6, however, when a young girl that's clearly troubled hands you yet another card, and she also slips you a handwritten note, saying that her and her sister were tricked by the owner, Derry Ludum, into coming to the brothel against their will. You're presented with 3 options that change the story a little bit. Do you detain Ludum when he comes to the border, resulting in Arstotska uncovering an underground human trafficking ring at risk? Or do you let them go on their way? It's actually rather interesting, because the newspaper will dynamically change, depending on your answer. If you save the girls, you'll see how the government managed to find the underground trafficking ring and bring it to a stop. However, if you fail, a few days later you read the newspaper and see that the 2 girls have died. You'll eventually have multiple run-ins with a mysterious group known only as Izik. Your choice to help or hinder them can mean the difference between topping the totalitarian society and bringing a new age to the might of the Arstotzkan Empire. With 20 different endings to get throughout gameplay, it's really quite awesome to see how you as a lowly border control agent have so much impact in this world. This isn't exactly the cheeriest video I've ever done, but when you see such a wonderful combination of art, sound, game design, motivating story behind it, emergent gameplay, it's hard not to want to do something else. I mean, just very rare do we even see games from multi-people, large AAA teams, whatever. But a single guy did all of this. That's the part that blows my mind the most. Now, I'll have links down below in the description to the creator's website, as well as to the game itself on Steam if you want to give it a shot. I highly recommend it. This game it's one of those very rare games that I feel like everybody should play at least once. And not because it's some amazing blowout experience, not because it's the next Doom. It's not a referential joke. But just because it's one of those games that when you sit down and play, makes you question a lot of things, and it makes you question your own morality, and it makes you question what you hold dear. And that's something that's very rarely done nowadays. And even beyond that, it's very rarely done well. So it's very refreshing to see a game pull it off on all fronts. And the cool part is that it's such a simple concept that anybody can pick it up and play. I got Megan to sit down and play it for an hour straight. Like, I showed her the first 2 days and I was like, okay, these are the controls, this is how you do it, blah, blah, blah. I stood over her, watched her the first day. I sat down and watched from a distance the second day, and then all the other days I walked out to the living room and started doing other things. And then she only quit when I came to her an hour later and asked if she was hungry. So it's really cool, it's really addictive, and it's just overall great, and highly recommend it. Thank you guys for watching. I do really appreciate everything you guys do, all the feedback you leave. It is tremendous, it helps a lot, and I really do appreciate the engagement. Now, instead of what I did last week, which was leaving comments whether you agreed or disagreed, which you can still do, but my question for you this week is that if you had a job where you had to pick between saving someone else's family member or saving your own family member at the cost of each other's lives, who would you pick and why? Leave me a comment down below explaining your story. Hit me up on social media if it's a little bit more complicated than that. Facebook and Twitter links are down in the description below. Hit that like button if you really liked this video. Hit that dislike button if you don't agree with all my points. And I will see you guys next time.